Our speaker has one heck of a CV. She's lived in 5 different countries, worked for Bank of Canada, she's worked in Uganda, the Monetary Authority of Singapore. She's published 2 books, one of them called Perspectives on Uganda, that I'm going to go pick up because it looked really interesting and there was about 4 pages of reviews and interesting on it on Google. CFAR, LSE, working on Basel III stuff. I thought we were still working on Basel II, but apparently she's ahead of the curve. Has written some really fascinating stuff outside of data on social media, whether you're not to, kindness in the first person, your favorite flaw you can't live without, opt-in is a myth. All that's to say, along with her 2 wonderful daughters that she raises, Prakta's got a really interesting background of both the data, but also some real societal challenges that she's trying to help move forward. And I think that's exactly the type of leadership we're looking for in this industry. So without further ado, because you don't need me, I'm going to invite her up on stage and give us a wonderful presentation on data. So please come.
Thank you, Stuart. That was a glowing introduction. It flatters me. So, I am Prajakta Karkar-Nigam, and I'm an economist by training. I somehow hypnotized 3 central banks on 3 different continents into believing that I'm a good one. Along the way, I published 2 books, became a mom, moved to Canada, and then I did the unexpected. I jumped onto the machine learning and big data bandwagon. I argue this room is full of blind folks. If it were not, how could we miss the elephant in the room? Can you see it? No? Yourself? Yourself? No? I'll explain with a parable. Has anyone heard of the 6 blind men and the elephant? This is an ancient parable that comes up in ancient Indian texts, and it was part of one of my school textbooks. It's stayed with me since then. Best summarized by a poem by John Sachs, there were 6 men of Indostan, to learning much inclined, who went to see an elephant, though all of them were blind, that each by his observation may satisfy his mind. So when I talk about the 6 blind men, I'm referring to the story of a king of a distant land who wanted to know what an elephant looks like. He announced a special reward for anyone who would describe one to him. So 6 blind men decided to try out their luck. Went in search of an elephant, found one, and because they were blind, they had to observe the elephant using their hands. Now it so happened that the elephant was large, and so each of them could only grab a part of the elephant. Someone got the tusk, someone got the legs, yet another person got the tail. But each of them was delighted and hurried back to tell the king of his new discovery. Convinced that each of them had discovered the whole truth about the elephant, they carefully guarded their discoveries from the other 5 men. Now back at the royal court, each of them took turns to describe what an elephant looks like. The one who got the tusk said it's sharp and smooth like a spear. The one who had the tail said it's agile and slender like a snake. And the one who had touched the legs said it's bulky and hairy like a stump. Now as you can imagine, the king was utterly confused. And thinking that they were all fooling him, that no one had actually seen an elephant, he imprisoned them all for dishonesty. So the elephant that I'm referring to in this parable and the 6 blind men, who do they refer to? When I said this room is full of blind folk, I meant we are blind just like the 6 men in the parable to the picture of our whole consumer. And allow me to explain that a little. So all of us work in different companies and different industry verticals. And that's why we often fall into the trap of thinking about our customers in isolation. I work for TELUS. I think about how to make my customer increase her mobile data usage. One of you may be working for a bank and you might think of how to sell a credit card or get someone to take out a mortgage. Yet another one may be working in the travel industry and you may spend your days thinking about how to send more people on vacations. But all of us are thinking about our customers limited to the context in which our companies operate. The subtle fact that we miss out on is that my customer is your customer too. It's the same person making these decisions across industries. The same person requires a mortgage, buys a mobile plan, and may be planning a vacation to Hawaii. And what's even more interesting is that all these decisions that customers are making across industries are based on some finite set of thumb rules, beliefs, and hardwired ways of thinking, rational or irrational. In fact, even the temptations and the biases that affect our customers are same across industries when they make their purchase and churn decisions across different sectors. And that is the part that we miss when we look at our customers in isolation. So when I said that we are blind like the 6 men in this parable, we are blind to the whole picture of our customer. And the elephant in the room and the elephant in the parable refers to our customer. We do have an understanding of our customers from our data, from our big data. But the understanding that we do have of the customer is only a partial truth. There you go. Now, when I say partial truths are still much better than complete ignorance. But partial truths are useful in a very limited manner. I think you would attest to the fact that our companies spend a lot of money, effort, time, and resources on ingesting, cleansing, storing securely all our big data resources. Our data is big, highly valuable, and proprietary. And yet, the insights that we can draw from our data are very limited because they are limited to the specific context of only our industry. And because we have such a limited understanding of our markets, our customers actually face big predicaments. Let's take a look at what our customers' life is because of this limited understanding.
Hey there. Long time no see. Looking good.
Yeah, let's just keep this simple. I want a divorce.
What now?
I think you heard me just fine.
Come on. This is me. What's wrong?
We don't talk anymore.
I just put down $1 million on a TV commercial just to talk to you.
Exactly. You do all the talking. I never get a chance.
Talk on our website, can't you?
Sure, if I want to say order this product.
See?
It's not exactly a dialogue.
What about the print campaign, You can't tell me you missed the billboard in Times Square. That was like a 200-foot tall declaration of love.
You're saying you love me, but you're not behaving like you love me. It's not genuine.
I don't know. The agency said I was genuinely being funny. Genuinely being charming. They said you would love everything I did.
Would you keep your voice down? You're not doing a radio commercial. Look, whether you're funny or not, it's just, I've changed, and you haven't. I mean, we don't even hang out in the same places anymore. You're not even listening, are you?
Coupons. You want coupons, don't you? Look, come by the store. I got 2 words for you. Loyalty, reduction. Am I right? That was it, wasn't it? Let's just hug.
If you knew me, you'd know I don't care about that.
Know you? Sweetheart, I know everything about you. You're 28 to 34. Your online interests include music, movies, and laser hair removal. You have a modest but dependable disposable income. Am I the only one not getting the problem here?
I'm out of here.
Oh, come on. Don't be like that. Look, I'll tell you what. Come back here tomorrow. I'll give you the chance to win a Bahamas vacation. It's a small chance, minuscule, but technically still a chance.
All right, so those are the partial truths we know about our customers, and doesn't look like they're pleasing them, at least not to the extent that they expect. So then, how do we develop this complete picture of our customer? What are the clues to developing a complete picture, a complete understanding, or a closer to complete understanding of our customer? I'd argue that clues lie in combining data sets from disparate sources and industries and contexts. What I mean by that is, let me share with you a key learning, because my work in TELUS focuses on data valuation. My research is really showing up that the more disparate and unrelated data sets and data fields that we combine, the more likely we are to come up with surprising insights and unexpected correlations. So especially for your models, your predictive models, the more unexpected the features that you train your models on, the more likely it is that you'll come up with insights that have not been discovered before. Now what that means is, just for an example, imagine if your features were not just from the telco industry, or they were not just referring to customers in the banking industry, but if your features were a combination of financial features and travel-related features and health-related features and telecom-related features. These kind of features could show up completely unforeseen correlations and insights for understanding our customers. And these unrelated insights are the key to bringing us closer and closer to a more complete understanding of our customers. And by the way, I'm referring to customer data here because it's the most widely available and it's the most widely analyzed. But this principle applies equally to employee data, infrastructure data, network data, epidemiology, health data, and so on. The principle is the same, that my customer is your customer too. Same person making these decisions across different contexts based on some finite set of thumb rules and ways of thinking. And our job is really to come closer and closer to understanding what these ways of thinking are and how they govern customer behavior. Let's look at a few examples of how this is being done in the industry. So I'd like to share with you a case study. Two researchers, Daniel Bjorkegren, an economist at Brown University, and Darren Grisel of the Entrepreneurial Finance Lab at the Harvard Business School, ran a study and published their findings in 2015. They went to a middle-income South American country, took mobile behavior-related data from a telco, and combined it with repayment rates and financial data from a credit rating agency. And what they came up with was surprising. They took about 5,000 different characteristics of mobile behavior, trained their machine learning models on these characteristics, and tried to predict, and they did predict accurately, the possible repayment rates on new business loans being applied for by entrepreneurs. In fact, their finding was that on a sample of people with sparse financial histories, their predictions, their models' predictions, were much better than the traditional credit scoring models of the credit bureau. And their method has now been used to develop and design completely new products and completely new forms of lending to specific segments of the population. And this makes total intuitive sense. A responsible borrower is also likely to manage their mobile account balance more responsibly. So you would see a smoother mobile usage pattern. Similarly, if there's another entrepreneur who's applying for a loan and it seems that more of her calls are getting returned, she tends to have a stronger social network. And social work has been shown to be not just a predictor, but also a motivator for repaying loans. Yet another example, if an entrepreneur is making calls from various different locations in the days prior to application of her loan, it is likely that she is hustling. She is setting things up so that she can hit the ground running the moment her loan gets approved. A better entrepreneur, more likely to have a successful entrepreneurial idea, and therefore likely to have better repayment rates. So it makes total intuitive sense that mobile behavior characteristics are helping people predict repayment rates. Yet another example of this, and by the way, I should mention that while this was done in South America, this study is highly relevant to certain segments of the population, of the Canadian population that our companies target. New immigrants, new graduates joining the workforce, new entrepreneurs, SMEs, or anyone who has a gap in their credit history, anybody for whom it's not straightforward to establish a credit risk profile. Going back to the other example that I was going to talk about, this time it's closer to home. So Google, everybody knows about Google tracking data from their online ads, right? So they track who clicks on their online ads and whether that results in an online sale. There's no news there. But what about offline sales coming from online ads? This was a huge gap that Google wasn't able to address until recently. So it teamed up with MasterCard and took some of its data on users and click-throughs on ads to develop aggregated user profiles, which they then matched up with the offline transaction data that MasterCard has. Putting these two together, they were able to, on an aggregated basis, predict or estimate a general level of offline sales happening through online Google ads. Bingo! A whole new universe of customer behavior opens up in front of the advertisers of Google. Because without this, how would Google know about the offline behavior of its viewers? And how would the advertisers who pay Google know about this offline customer behavior, this offline purchase behavior, in the absence of this? So that's yet another relevant story, much closer to home. And I'd say that many such possible use cases are possible. Just thinking from my own context, from a telco context, we have location data on people. It can be used to predict international aggregated travel patterns. Data on people's mobile usage can be used to predict sedentary lifestyles versus non-sedentary lifestyles, thus helping a health company. Fraud detection, it's a big question mark for most people in the financial industry, and mobile location data, mobile usage behavior can be used to predict fraudulent behavior as well. So once again, coming back to the point that I'm trying to drive is that my customer is your customer too, and their behavior in one industry or one context can have meaningful insights for deciphering their behavior in another industry. I can see some question marks coming up on faces, and I don't blame you for them, because data, we're talking about data, it's a highly valuable asset. For most of our companies, it's proprietary, and we guard our secret recipe and our secret ingredients to our secret recipe with gusto. So what am I talking about here? Collaborating, not competing. Collaborating on data sets from different industries? Well, I would argue that we may actually be missing out on some meaningful opportunities by not collaborating. There's a cost to not collaborating. And once again, let's use the parable to help us understand why we need to collaborate instead of competing, or both compete and collaborate. Now, were the 6 men in the parable lying? No, each of them had a slice of truth. In fact, 1/6 of the truth, to be precise. And yet, none of them had the complete truth. They were only oblivious to the limits of their own perceptions of the elephant. In our case, we are oblivious to the limits of our own perceptions of the customer. What if we changed the parable? What if we let these 6 men first discuss their discoveries, come up with a more holistic view of the elephant, and then describe the elephant to the king? I think they could have come pretty close to describing one accurately. In their context, remember who the 6 blind men in the parable are. They refer to you and I in this room. So in their context, they could have combined their partial truths to come up with the whole truth of the elephant. They could have figuratively replaced their blindness with vision collectively. So my message today is really that cross-industry collaborations on data analytics and data sharing are where the secrets for discovering new insights lies. But there's one more thing that I want to talk about. We have been saying, or I've been saying, let's address the elephant in the room. But did anyone bother asking the elephant if she wants to be addressed at all? Did anyone bother asking the customers if they want to be known so well to the companies that they transact with? Maybe, maybe not. It all depends on what data we collect from them and how we plan to use it and whether we share that with them. So I'd like to share a bit of our work at TELUS. At TELUS, we live by privacy by design. It's a principle and philosophy under which we are able to build privacy controls into the very design of our data analytics processes, of our models, of our products, right from conception. We focus a lot on de-identification models and are acutely aware of the risk of re-identification. So what I'd like to suggest here is that when you do make cross-industry collaborations, when you do think about collaborating on data analytics, it's crucial that all the parties involved in these collaborations are equally highly committed to data privacy. It's not adequate to do this. It's not adequate to be transparent, accountable, and ethical about data use and data collection and data sharing as a company alone. This needs to be done by every party that's involved in a collaboration. Only then it works, and that is key. So I'd say be careful who you choose to collaborate with. And finally, I'm going to leave you with this. I don't think it's merely lucrative or profitable to get to know our customers, our industry, our world better. I think it's our responsibility to get to know them as well as we can and to the extent that they will allow us to. How else do you think could we put our customers first? How else would we be able to serve them from a position of respectful understanding? Customers today expect well-curated, personalized recommendations, products, and services. How else, if we don't know them well, would we be able to serve their needs with such well-curated experiences? And so, these men of Hindustan, they disputed loud and long, each in his own opinion, exceeding stiff and strong, though each was partly in the right and all were in the wrong. I'd love to continue this conversation. Drop me a line or ask me a question, and thank you very much for your time.
We probably have time for about 1 or 2 questions. There's a microphone over here, or just stand up and just talk quite loudly if you can.
Yeah, I agree with you. The data should be, but do you think it should be decentralized way or centralized way? Decentralized, I mean, nobody, the user owns the data, right? So no corporate should own the data for all the customer journey, like a blockchain. Is that the way to go, or should we remain in the corporate?
Thank you for that question. I think it's an important question. The question is, should data sharing be done in a centralized fashion, which means that corporates take the data as if it's their own and share it across and do analytics? Or should it be done in a decentralized manner where the customer is part of the process? And I would definitely argue for the decentralized version because you brought out the point correctly. Whose data is it anyway? It's the customer's data. It's not the company's data. It's not the industry's data. So it's really important to be transparent about which data we collect from customers and for what purposes we would be using that data, for what kind of analytics. And that's where this whole movement of interpretability and explainability of models has come about as well. So that's key. That's key.
Do you see any regulatory hurdles for this data sharing between different industries?
Thank you for asking that. Absolutely. Lots of regulatory hindrances probably, but usually we look at privacy as an industry and even in the regulatory circles as based on an assumption that customers don't want us to collect their data. However, that equation changes the moment we are, one, transparent about what we are using this data for, and two, the moment we can address some of the concerns in the minds of the customers as well as the regulatory authorities. So for example, there's a lot of work going on both in industry and academia on differential privacy models. So these are mathematical models which allow you to optimize privacy, to maximize privacy and still balance it off with doing some interesting analytics. So definitely there are regulatory hurdles, but I think it's a matter of finding methods that address their concerns and then explaining those methods in layman terms.
Thank you so much. That was really, really interesting.
Thank you for coming.